Every time I do come back here, there's a scent in the air that I smell, and you can understand the spiritual attachment that I guess some of the people had to this place in the early days, because I definitely understand it. This coastline is just amazing. Ningaloo Dreaming. That's us.
About 1,000 kilometres north of Perth begins one of the world's great ecological treasures, the wilderness area known as Ningaloo. A fringing reef, it runs several hundred kilometres adjacent to the jagged Cape Range. It's where the continental shelf comes closest to the Australian mainland and is home for an incredible diversity of marine life.
Because it's been isolated, it's been kept, you know, it's been left alone. It's been pristine. It's traditionally been difficult to get to, and it's so rich. It's so amazingly diverse with hundreds of species of corals and fish, and a kind of a highway for whales and whale sharks and turtles and dugongs. It's a treasure house. It's something that we're lucky to have, and we have to look after.
I think it's a little pocket of the state that people have been going to for generations and generations, and I think that's one of the beauties of this state, is things like that have remained relatively uncovered. Obviously it's changing now. It's one of the three most biologically diverse marine environments on the planet, and you can't keep that a secret forever.
In the sport of ocean paddling, Dean Gardner has been one of the best over the past 15 years. He has won the World Championship of Ocean Racing, the Molokai Challenge, 9 times. It's a race between the Hawaiian Islands of Molokai and Oahu, a distance of nearly 60 kilometres.
I first came up here in 1980. I was about 15, I think, and I was working on a fishing boat up here. And I came back for the next 6 years after that. I would spend 6 to 8 months of the year up here. So I was working on the prawn trawlers in the Exmouth Gulf there. And I became really, really attracted to the place. I just loved the fact that I could get up here away from Perth, and back in those days I guess it was a little bit more remote than what it is now. It wasn't the tourist mecca that it's become, and a lot of the stuff that I really liked, the surfing and the diving and the fishing and all that sort of stuff, was here, and I just loved it. My connection to the region is enhanced by the fact that my father used to work up here in the 50s when whaling was permitted. This is film he actually shot in 1953. I've long dreamed of returning and paddling the entire reef with some mates, and it's been sort of something that I've tried to put together for a while. I know it's a pretty dangerous coast. There'll be quite a few challenges along the way. We'll see all sorts of marine creatures, from sharks, turtles, and of course the migrating humpback whales. We want to experience them in a different way to the way my father experienced them when he was involved in the industry back then. So we hope to take advantage of the prevailing winds, which are generally from the south, from Carnarvon, 500 kilometres to Exmouth. It's an extreme and isolated coast, and it should be an epic journey. There you go, that's what you want.
The team included former champion surf lifesaver Trevor Hendy, who's won 6 national Ironman titles and represented Australia in kayaking. Hawaiian stuntman Todd Sells, a former world body surfing champion. One of South Africa's leading paddlers, Daryl Bartho, who was also an accomplished diver. Zoologist and television presenter Natalie Schmidt. Champion West Australian multi-sport athlete and Ironman Greg Mickle. Our boat skipper and also champion international paddler Ash Nesbitt. And another former top Australian Ironman competitor, Brett Tyack.
Well, here we are, day one. We're heading that way, 50 kilometres. It's not what we expected. We kind of expected the westerly or the easterly to be kicking in right now, and it's nowhere near as strong as we expected. We've got a light southerly wind, which will be on the side a little bit for this first leg, but it should be fun out there. And because it's flat like this and oily, we'll see a lot of the fish life and the whales and the animals that live out in Shark Bay.
Good luck, fellas. Have a good day. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Started out fairly ambitiously with a 50-kilometer paddle, and fortunately I only had to paddle half of it, but the rest of the boys were doing the whole thing on the two-man kayaks. So it was an early morning wake-up and then just 4 or 5 hours worth of paddling. And then
the way Dean puts it is, mate, it's going to be the easiest 50 Ks of your life. And I don't think there is any such thing as an easy 50 kilometres, particularly not in my life. Dean and Greg in particular are just so well versed with the distance stuff. They get in a rhythm and away they go. And plus they've been racing, I haven't really trained properly since about 1998. So it's all right to get on the ski and go away for a couple of hours and paddle and do that sort of stuff. And it's good if you're chasing runs, but if you're on an unfamiliar ski and doing this, it's tricky.
On our way to the islands, we encountered a couple of big whales, and I mean those humpbacks they were just jumping all over the place, and it was fantastic.
The first time we saw the whales was, I think Brett Tyack actually pointed one out. He was back on one of the double skis, and he just went, "Whale!" And he's like a little grom. He gets so excited that everyone looked over, and all we saw was just a little tail. But then as we kept paddling on our course and they kind of came toward us, we saw everything from the fluke thing and a couple breaches. The first one was just amazing though, because we had hoped we'd see some, and once we first saw the first one, it was on from there. It was just like everyone was all excited now about spotting all the whales. Instead of just paddling along like a drone, everyone's kind of trying to keep your head on a swivel to find the next whale sighting.
Brett and Todd got pretty close, and the whale breached right next to him. It was just to see the magnitude of those whales, and you feel so insignificant against with them being there, and it's just fantastic being and not without you having a power behind you and the noise on the skis, you just get so close to them.
Look at the colours around here, you know? Just oranges and reds, blues.
I'm still in awe of each of these things that we encounter. I mean, these guys are pulling a 10-kilo fish and not thinking anything of it. I mean, what to expect here? I sure hope we get some great waves. That's the one thing I really, really hope for.
We're in the middle of nowhere and it's just pumping. We just happen to have surfboards in our boat. To be driving to a break, not knowing what it's going to be like, never seen it before, just knowing that if it is a good break, the conditions are right, you know, roughly right. And then when you get close to see that the swell's twice as big as you think it is, and it starts marching through, and then you're thinking, does it handle this swell, you know? And then you see the waves reeling and peeling, and you're watching them go and go and go, and a minute later you're still watching the same wave and going, what? And you know, you can barely believe it because you're with all your friends, you know, and you've got your boards tied on the roof of a boat, you know, and as you're pulling up, it's crystal clear below you, and you can see fish swimming around underneath you. It's just amazing. Like I couldn't get in the water quick enough, you know. I couldn't believe that the other guys got there 5 minutes before us and we got the first waves, because it was like my wetsuit doesn't take more than 30 seconds to put on when I'm looking at waves like that, you know. And then got in the water, and this far north, you know, even this time of the year, it's warm. I was in a light wetsuit and it was fine, you know. It's just incredible. That's a blessing that you never forget as a surfer in your life. You never forget that.
I've been coming up here for years, but now I'm finding that we're getting into places where you can't go, and we're picking up new little breaks. There's no one out, and it's just a nice, cute little wave curling around another atoll. And the guys on this team are just fantastic. They love their surfing, and there's a good variety of guys, and it's just good fun out there. It's great to break it up with the paddling. You know, surfing for a lot of people is their life. And I think we're just mixing it up beautifully here.
Hey Greg Mickle, we believe that you had the wave of the day.
Cool, that's a big call. Big call.
We called it on the boat.
Yeah. I thought I saw some other goodies out
Garlo
there.
got some good sort of mid to larger sized barrels.
Sure.
So you had the outfit too, the red
Yeah, the
vest.
red board, red vest, red shorts.
Colour coordinated.
Now I have a red knee. One wave gone bad. All worth it.
Back into it. I'd like to thank our sponsor Brett Ty for all his sun lube.
Big day at the office here. Big day at the office.
That was amazing, because there was one whale, right? There was 3 in a row, and then they dropped, and it was like, what do we do now? Because they were right in front. We could have just swam and seen them under the water.
Yeah, it looked like that little one was a calf.
Yeah, the one in the middle was a bit smaller, and then they went around, and we were like, where are they?
and one came up behind us, one came up in front, and then one went between the two right underneath us. It's like, no! And the one underneath us rolled on its side so you could see all the white.
Yeah, see all the white coming up under him. There's one huge one in there.
Yeah.
And then the little one.
It's just so beautiful, you know, when you get that close and they lift their tail up and they gently put it in the water.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, no
so like
way.
the tail comes out, follows it perfectly, it's not even a splash.
Yeah, just like, Greg Louganis.
Yeah.
I left on the day of my birthday, and I got given a little journal, and Jo, my partner, she said, look, it's a masculine journal, you know, like there's this journal, and she said you can go write about your trip in it, and I've written in it each day, and after 2 days I've written so much in this journal. I can't believe it's 2 days. We've done so much. Like every day is like 5 days worth of experience. It's unbelievable. We're not even to the good stuff yet. This place is amazing.
Nico, tell me about how dangerous this coast is.
Well, it's extremely dangerous, mainly because of the swells, and at times can be very, very large, up to 5.5, 6 metres, which means that even where we're standing now can be covered in water. And it's the fishermen that are unaware what's happening, that do fish right near the edges, they get washed in, and because that's the end of the story. At this particular spot where we are now, there's 13 lives been lost off this particular fishing advantage point, and of course there has been a lot of lives lost all the way along the coast.
We go 50k from one island to the mainland. We bomb ourselves up 20 metres off the shore. How's that, eh? Can you believe that? Pretty much looking forward to these sort of stages after our open sea paddles, paddling right out to the islands off Carnarvon and then coming back last night. These paddles are sort of a lot more pleasant with the cliff faces along the side, and we get these backwashes coming off it after the swell surges up the cliff face and it just roars back down over a ledge, and all of a sudden all these backwashes are coming off. And, it's really unique, you know. Not a lot of people will get along there and see the sort of rocky outcrops and the, you know, where the ocean is gouged into the cliff face, and you just see years and years of layers of earth going up these cliff faces, and it's just fantastic to be up close and right alongside it. And just the sea life is just fantastic. We're always seeing dolphins and whales and even just, you know, the schoolfish that are bouncing off the cliff faces. It's just fantastic up here. It's just, you know, Mother Nature at its best.
Today we're going from Quobba to Red Bluff, and the plan was to have a stop at Cape Cuvia. It was going to be a split day, 30k then 20k in the afternoon. It started off with cliff face. We had a bit of a following sea, a lot of backwash, the blowholes, all that sort of stuff. And then we moved into a couple of long beaches with headlands, all the way up to Cape Cuvia. And the whole way along there were whales. Pretty well every kilometre or so we were seeing whales, and they're putting on a little bit of a show. And we got to Cape Cuvia and were told to move on. So we're now 5 kilometres north of Cape Cuvia, past the Korean Star wreck. And we've probably got somewhere around 15 kilometres to go. The wind's now turned northeast, which means it's in our face from a southeast that we had this morning. But it's flattened the ocean out, and it should be a pretty pleasant sort of hour 20, hour and a half to go.
Got to paddle into the wind today, mate. So it's going to be a bit of fun, I think. How far? About 40 k's or something like that. So, I think we get to lead for the first half, so it'll be a bit of fun.
It has been a punishing schedule, especially some of the days where we had cross drop and headwind. Doing distances that I guess our average when we first started we thought was going to be around 40, but I think our average has been bumped up to more like 50 because of some of the various courses we've had to take through reefs around different obstacles, points. To get out of the wind at times we've had to go closer to shore or further out to sea to gain wind. So the distance has probably been bumped up to about 50 kilometres a day. But you know, the funny thing is along the way, initially a lot of the guys were a bit sceptical about paddling for such vast distances. But once we started, the turnaround and the fact that you just close your mind out and just think of what you're doing and tap along, it becomes quite easy.
You know, Dean's said, you know, leading into this trip that it's all going to be paddling with the breeze, the prevailing breeze that comes up here, either being southeast or southwest. But you know, you always expect a couple of days where the wind may not be in your favour, but after sort of 3 long days, we hit this northerly, and it was a 35-kilometre stretch, and it was just on the nose and working hard once again. And look, that's what it's all about. You just can't have it all easy. We know this is a tough journey, and not for a moment does Dean complain or will I complain. We know what it's all about. It's about putting one paddle forward in front of the other one and getting there. That's the only way you're going to get there, not worrying about it.
Ningaloo's about 220,000 acres and apparently 53 k's of coastline on this side, and then there's the wetlands on the inside too, which are meant to be pretty spectacular.
Now you let fishermen, surfers and holiday makers through your property to vacation. Now, why is that? I mean, do you feel comfortable about that?
Why not? You couldn't keep this away from anyone. I have the opinion that, you know, the place like this here should be enjoyed. You know, it's not a case of keeping everyone out and doing that it should be managed and enjoyed properly. You know, and this place is just spectacular. You know, it's probably one of the nicest parts of Australia, I would think.
We finally got a day where the wind was favourable, and it was a good southerly going southwest, and the ocean, the seas have been picking up with a swell that we've been expecting. And Dean's the master, has become the master of running these craft downwind and through the ocean swells. And to me it looked like he was in his Molokai race pattern the whole time for about 3 hours. And we were hitting speeds of up to 20 kilometres an hour, screaming down the pace of these runs. And it was fantastic. It's like we were surfing the whole way for 2 to 3 hours. And you know, that's obviously the joy part of this journey, and it was fantastic to have it.
It's funny, it looks really choppy and bumpy and really unorganized, but there's some pretty good runs out there. You can watch them go. They take a couple hard strokes and get a nice little glide out of it. Watch them go here. Yeah, no paddling required. It's pretty nice out there. Incredible.
the right, boat to the right, boat to the right. He's coming under the boat. Bring him on, bring him on, bring him on. Oh, tuna for dinner. No, great.
Well, it's considered to be a small sheep station in the Gascoyne region of Western Australia, adjacent to the Ningaloo Marine Park. We purchased the lease about 11 years ago. We'd lived in Exmouth for a long time and we're very conscious of the precious beauty of this part of the world, and we thought, well, if we got a station like this we might have a say in keeping it that way forever.
It's just the most amazing piece of coastline. It's 300 or 400 kilometres, isn't it? What does it do for you?
Well, it's balm for the soul. It really is, and that seems to be the common thread that runs through the experience of those people that come and immerse themselves in this. There's just something wonderful about the vastness of it and being able to see so far, and the very nature of the place that is very, very therapeutic, and I think that's why people seek it out. We never for one moment take it for granted. It's just so inspiring. I think you'd be hard pressed to find anywhere with the unique features that this particular area's got, the Northwest Cape Peninsula. It's quite unique, and probably just because of the geographic isolation of the place, we've been lucky that it's been able to remain that way for so long.
Great surf for kilometres, kilometres, kilometres. Great surf. It's unreal.
Swell's definitely come up, Charles. See you, lads. Let's go again.
The first time Dean approached me, he said he wanted to go up to the northwest of Australia, and I just thought, great, I'm in. Just tell me when. I've got to pack my bag, my 2 t-shirts, a sleeping bag, a pair of shorts and a wind cheater. He was pretty excited about it, and I thought, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. The picture I had in my mind was just red sand. It wasn't really anything like I expected. You know, there's been a lot of rain and that up here, and it's green. I expected it just to be desert all the way to the water. You know, a couple of trees here and there, so it's like nothing like I expected really. Well, originally I came from Torquay, down on the Great Ocean Road, so I guess I have a bit of an association with this sort of country and land. It's just great to get back to something like this. I think, you know, when you live in Sydney for a certain amount of time, you forget what is out in our great country. Every now and again I get back to Torquay and it's all great, but to come up here where the remoteness of, you know, new things and new reefs to explore and fish and whales and all that sort of thing, it's just an amazing place.
Fish are friendly here. That's great.
This whole school of bait fish here. Hey Trev.
Yeah?
Don't hold us up here.
Yeah. Won't be holding you up.
Come on, Trevor, I can't wait to get under there. Right, on the beach. This area is wholly protected, which means that no one can fish around here. So expect the fish to be really, really friendly. They're going to come up to you, they're going to check you out, but don't worry, they're not going to hurt you. There aren't many days. Unless you get a tiger shark, and you know, there are tiger sharks, but they're sort of beyond the edge of the reef out there. So just enjoy it.
We'll keep Daryl on that side of us then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have a flipper race. Here you go. Oh, it's alright. Bit shallow in these parts. Visibility's not so good right here. About 6 inches.
Well, paddling from Coral Bay to Norwegian Bay was significant to me because my father had worked there in the 50s. I remember going past there on numerous occasions on boats, and I'd always thought that I really wanted to go in and see where he used to work. So this is a big day for us because he's going to be there on the shore, and it'll be good to see how he feels about the remnants of his old station.
Coming back now, it's like coming into a graveyard. You know, when I first came here in 1951 and the station was operational, and you had 4 months from the beginning of June till the end of September, 24 hours a day of hissing of steam and winches going and blokes yelling and shouting, and you put up with that for 4 months. And to come back now, it's like walking into a graveyard. It's just a very lonely feeling. And most amazing thing to me is how some of these things have moved. You could take that 80-ton winch over there that used to haul the whales onto the flensing deck, which was directly in front of us. That has been moved, and it's only by the force of nature that's moved it. And to come over here to these boilers that would weigh tons and tons and tons, and have just been blown over and rolled through the spinifex and sandhills. Absolutely amazing. Our quota here was 500 whales, right? And one year we got 600. That was Albany didn't get its whole quota, so we were allowed that. But it was very well controlled. And then when we moved to Carnarvon and this station closed down, we used to take 1,000 whales in 4 months. Down in the ice, when I first came whaling, there were 13 factory ships from different countries around the world. Some of them had up to 17 chasers for one factory ship. They would take 1,000 whales in 4 days. So when people talk about the slaughter of whales, don't worry what happened in Australia. There was nothing here compared to what happened down there. From the time a whale would hit the flensing deck, it took about 9 hours for the whole process, and the oil to be separated and pumped into these huge tanks we have at the back here. And then the whale was the meal and the crushed up bone, blubber and everything like that was all turned into a meal and went through a series of dryers which was along here, and then it was bagged. We had 2 30-ton barges, and they would take the whale meal, it would go out on the jetty on an elevator, and the guys would load it by hand and take it out to the state ships that used to come in about once a month. It didn't mean a lot to me, even going out in the chaser and seeing them being shot. I think because it had been going on for so long. Now, of course, it's a different ball game, but the whales are increasing and increasing, and you wonder where it's going to end, because whales are beaching themselves, whales are hooking themselves in lines, fishing lines, and all this type of stuff, simply because there's more and more whales. And how many whales can you have, I suppose?
We've been fortunate enough to see a whole bunch on our trek up the coast, and people pay a lot of money to see the whales. A lot of people have been talking about how much whales are worth more alive than dead.
For me, it's one of the highlights of doing this trip is paddling along and seeing a bit of a spurt or seeing a tail or a breach like we did in the first couple of days. It's all amazing stuff, and no matter how many times you see it, you know, probably over the years when I used to live up here and stuff, you probably saw it 100 times, but each time's as good as the other. You know, it still remains fascinating to watch them.
The weak guys are falling off and they need me now.
A little bit sore, I might ride in the boat for a little while today. No, I'll paddle. Todd's too slow.
Are we there yet?
Let's go to your act, let's get a head start.
I'm collecting shells. Not really interested in the paddling at the moment, but I'm collecting shells, and I've just spotted a sea eagle's nest. I think there are babies in there.
I really enjoyed some of the inside the reef days, mainly because you had something to look forward to every 5 or 10 kilometres. You see a point in the distance and you said, well, that's going to take an hour, and we'd get to that point, and at that point we might get off and stretch our legs and have a drink. So it broke 5 or 6 hours of paddling up into sort of 5 or 6 one-hour little sets, and that became a lot easier than, say, a crossing from Carnarvon to Bernier Island, which, you know, the only thing you look forward to is the end. And with the breaks in the days, you could look forward to every hour, basically. A ton of wildlife inside the reef, a lot of turtles, a lot of rays. We had a small shark trying to nip the back of our tail on the surf ski. A lot of decent fish and all sorts of stuff. You know, I'm sure if you went for a dive in some of those places, you'd see some pretty unique animals. You know, that was, as I said, it was the best part of the trip.
Bit of activity, we just chased a little shark, that was a bit of fun. And the guys got chased by a shark earlier. They had about a 4-foot shark on their tail, and saw a dugong, heaps of turtles.
The turtles are a bit like the kangaroos, they go left and then they go right and come back into your ski, and they go under you and then they go left again, and they're trying to get away and you're following them along and they just keep going. But stacks of them.
Oh, what a day. That was a fair way.
There's a feeling that I get when I look up at the canyons and I just really love that feeling. Where I used to live on the other side of the Gulf, on the Gulf side, and was working out of there, you could feel the effect that the spiritual effect that the canyons had on the area. You know, it was kind of like they were the heart and lungs, and they were the things that controlled whatever went on here. And when they wanted to, they sucked in the air from the east, made it strong, and when they got tired of that, they just settled down for the night and puffed out.
We've got to walk up there because it's beautiful. You should see all the birds. It's incredible up there.
Did you know this whole area used to be reef? All the way up to the ranges used to be reef. It all used to be underwater, and gradually the water receded. The cyclones came in, it rained a lot, which formed the gorges, and there are fossils everywhere.
Fossilized corals?
Yep.
So the water would have been right up through here?
The water would have been as high as the range itself.
Wow.
That was certainly a nice little trip to this point, first stage of the day. Apparently we're finishing it off with a little 23-kilometre sprint to Vlamming Head, which leaves us with one stage to go. So we're just about there. It's exciting.
How are the mussels bearing up?
Mussels are just starting to come good, and we're just about at the end, so it all doesn't really make sense. There's stretches of this coastline that you're just out there on your own, and you know, you're in the hands of Mother Nature, and that's extreme stuff.
And that second last day we came around the corner, there was a huge swell. We chanced it to get across the reef and ended up getting out the back, and from there on it was fun and games. You know, it was for an ocean paddler, it was really exciting, and it was great for me to have Brett on the back, because we've been through lots of different things in life together, and to actually have someone behind me who thinks very similarly to me meant that we both wanted to do the same things. So the big bommy that was out to sea wasn't a question, you know. It was 5 kilometres away, and we knew exactly where we were going. We weren't going to cut the corner and save a couple of kilometres. We were going out for that bommy, you know. So that sort of stuff, to catch those sort of waves and to have that experience, it was kind of like it was meant to happen at the end of the trip, you know. It was fantastic. It was a real buzz.
Now you guys make it look easy, but there's an element of danger to what you're doing out there, isn't there?
Oh yeah, it's incredibly dangerous. So even for our, I suppose, level of experience and ability, when we went out and caught the big bommy wave, it was really deep water, and when we're approaching it, only the really big ones were breaking, so we couldn't even tell where it was breaking. We're just in a big ocean thinking, are we in the wrong spot? And when one surges up and all of a sudden is on top of you, you haven't got time to get a 20-something feet ski out of the way. You can't turn them on a dime, you know. So we approached it very cautiously, and then when we took off on the wave, we knew we had to take off and go left and head away from the reef itself, and we only just pulled it off by about maybe 3 or 4 feet further to the right, and we probably would have nosedived, cartwheeled, and there would have been 4 skis, 2 normal length and 1, you know, and 2 half-length ones. So, and it would have been a long swim in for us. So, yeah, it is extremely dangerous, but just the adrenaline you get from putting yourself on the edge like that's amazing.
Last leg, shortest distance on the GPS, which is absolutely fantastic. So it should be a good run. We've got sun behind us, thank God. No wind at this stage. I think a little sea breeze might end up puffing in here, which will be a slight offshore on the other side. The chop should have died off on the other side, and should be a good run. I reckon it'll be oily over there. So, and we've got a definite distance. We've got a definite finishing point. It's not just a point after a point. So it's the only marina out there. So the first marina we see, that's us.
Last one. How far are we going?
23.
23. Easy. 23 gardeners. Sign me up.
Kind of mixed feelings today, you know. Good and sad. Good being in another 25 Ks. I don't have to sit on that seat again for as long as I like. I'm kind of sad after 450 odd Ks that it's all coming to an end, and it's a sort of a mixed emotions at the moment. It's good. It's been such a great challenge to both Dean and I and the rest of the crew, and I guess all good things come to an end. It's just been fantastic though. I'll see you at the end.
Yeah, it should be fun. Try and get in before it gets dark.
Fantastic. It's great.
That would have been by far the hardest paddle of my life. I don't think they thought it was that hard. I particularly thought it was very hard. I'm sending them the bill for my surgery on my shoulder, because it is inevitable now. But it was fun. It was awfully fun.
Promise yesterday was 40 kilometres, easiest 40 kilometres you'll ever do, and it turned out to be 38 miles, which of course is about 60 kilometres. So, at every point we look at, we're just going to there, and then you get there and it's like, it's just a quick 10 Ks after that. Marathon paddlers, their brains are wired differently, I reckon. They say all these things to themselves so they don't have to actually deal with the reality of the pain that they're paddling that far.
What do you think of that snorkeling, Brett?
It was good.
Ha ha ha.